Thank you, Mr. President. And colleagues, I had no intention of coming to the well today. I simply started off this morning with just asking a few questions that I felt was important for this body, not just this body, but for all the Georgians to understand what this process was like and what was involved and how the majority party came to the conclusions to draw the map that they did. That's how it started. And then the chairperson of the committee, as I attempted to ask her a few questions, yielded. I then asked the lieutenant governor about the gravity of this moment and its severity and what's at stake here, that the questions that we have as Democrats deserve to be answered. We represent as many Georgians as those in the majority party do. And that's important that we have an open discussion here and not cloud our debate in secrecy. Anytime we go through a redistricting and reapportionment process, it should be open and transparent, and I don't believe this process that we're going through today has been open and transparent. So since the chairperson refused to answer the question, that didn't give me an opportunity to ask her the questions that I had written down and researched and spent a lot of time considering, the only option I have is to stand before you today and ask those questions that I would have asked of her. The first question I asked was, why were the district numbers changed in several of the existing incumbents? That's an important question because a lot of us have spent countless years working in our districts. People identify us with who we are and the number of their districts. They know I'm the senator from the 10th. I ride around with it every day on the back of my car. We know that. So I didn't think that was a trick question. It was a very simple question, in my opinion. Why were these numbers changed? And I asked that question today, and if I had the answer, it would probably be to kind of obfuscate what seems obvious to, or not so obvious to some of us. Which means some of those districts that had numbers flipped were some of the districts that was referenced in the judge's order. Some of those districts that were flipped were some of the districts that simply has now gone majority minority. And it's not me saying that, it's that 515-page order that I have on my desk that states the obvious. So I didn't get an answer to that one, so that's the only answer I can come up with. The other question that I was going to ask is, why does the Republican proposal leave Senate District 16 and 34 unchanged when the court ruled that both districts that are drawn violate Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act? Folks, that's just a simple question. I'm not trying to trick anyone with asking a question. I don't know the answer to that. I can come up with why I think, because I didn't draw this map. As a matter of fact, the Democratic Party had little to no influence on how these maps were drawn. Yes, I live on the south side, some of the fastest growing areas that was impacted, that was mentioned in the judge's order. The 10th district is one of those. It borders the 17th. As a matter of fact, back when the 21 map was adopted, I said the exact same thing then that I'm saying today. Do you understand what pack, stacking, and cracking is all about? I didn't get an answer during the 21 maps, and I certainly didn't get an answer to that question today. So perhaps a special master can explain it to all of us. Another question that I simply had is, why does the Republican proposal make changes to districts that were not identified in the court's order? That's another question I had. Folks, those on the other side of the aisle, that's a legitimate question they ask. It's not trickery. It happened, they were changed, so please tell us why. Another question I had is, will the Republican proposal lead to voter confusion whose voter district numbers have changed? And that's an obvious question as well. It's not trickery, it was done. Majority party changed the numbers. Do you think that the voters will be confused about who they're voting for? I've held this seat now for 19 years, the 10th district. If it was changed, I don't know what my voters would think. Did I move? Did I relocate? Was I assigned to another district? Voter confusion is real. That's something that we all should be sensitive about. Another question I've had is, why does the Republicans' proposed map move black voters in Douglas and Newton counties out of existing majority black districts into majority white districts? There's no trickery about that. Nothing at all. It's simply a question that need to be asked, and I believe the majority party need to answer the question. I was rather emphatic when I raised upon the personal privilege to our president of this great body, demanding that we need these questions asked and answered. Partially, we were told, well, this has gone through the process. It's gone through the committee and the subcommittee and the committee process and all those other processes that we have here in our great state, but the public isn't watching those committee processes like they're watching today. Folks, 11 million Georgians have an opportunity to tune in to what we're doing together as a body. They deserve an answer. Another question I had is, why are black voters in the voter dilution area identified by the court moved into majority black districts? That's a real question that needs an answer. And I would tell you in advance that I will take any question that you have for me, but I hope someone on the majority party can at least provide some kind of sunshine or transparency on why some of these questions, though I didn't get an opportunity to ask, but at least provide some type of answer for some of these questions. Lastly, the question that I had, and something that I spent a lot of time thinking about last night, is, how does the Republican proposed map addresses the court rulings in South Metro Atlanta? Folks, I lived in South Metro all of my life. I moved to Henry County some 31 years ago, when it was a little backwards place, and I'm sure my friend from the 17th, who's lived there about as long as I have, maybe if not longer, understands what the county was like. But we've seen this county now grown to one of the fastest growing counties in the nation. In the last presidential election, Henry County had the largest increase in votes for the Democratic president than any other county in the nation. Number two was Rockdale County that borders Henry County. So you can see how much this region has grown. And not just has it grown in terms of the demographics, but it's grown in the percent of Democratic votes. That's what you guys are looking at, and we know that. So why pack, stack, and crack up these communities of interest? South Metro is my home. I know these citizens that live in there, and I'm not just asking these questions for myself. I'm asking the questions for those that live in the South Metropolitan part of this state, that this judge, with his 515, 16-page ruling, said that the way the 21 maps were configured violating the Voting Rights Act. But I'm not just here posing questions. The final question I wanted to ask the committee chairperson was, have you considered or have you looked at the data and the demographics and the maps that we drew? If we are sitting here, and I'm going to ask if someone can help me, if they will, kind of flip this map back over, because I want to show you the map that we drew. And one of the things that the senator from the 49th was adamant about was that her map, please, thank you, complied fully with the judge's order. Well, I want to show you a map that all of our experts agree with us that, in fact, this map complies with the Georgia's order. We did not pack. We didn't stack districts together. We didn't have to crack open any of those existing districts like we did for the senator from the 35th and the senator from the 42nd back there. We didn't have to do that on this map that we drew. We didn't. This map that we've submitted fully complies. And I would challenge anyone, and we'll give you the data, that if you find anything that's wrong that does not comply with the judge's order in the maps that we drew, then I would agree that we made a mistake. That's all I was asking the senator from the 49th to do. Folks, that's what our job is up here, is to work deliberative in this body. And I don't think any one of us has an answer to all the questions that need to be asked in this particular process. And I certainly would have hoped that the majority party would have taken a lot more time and given us due consideration to at least be respectful enough and respond to the questions that we had. This is not where we're trying to trick anyone. You shouldn't hide from this judge, because I don't think you can do that for a federal court judge anyway. They have the ability to pierce the work that we've already done, of which Judge Jones has already done, of which he has no relationship to me, by the way. Think about this for a moment, please. We still have an opportunity to look at what we've done and how we've configured our districts, and can compare it to what you all have done in the majority party. That's what we're asking for as Democrats in this body. And Mr. President, thank you, and if there aren't any questions, I certainly hope there would be, but if there's not, then I'll yield the well.